Good morning, everyone. We are Group 6, and today we're excited to present to you the global and cultural perspectives in international business. Allow me to introduce our co-reporters members. My name is Kathleen B. Barmeda, Ababa Rachel Ann, Boreta Arlette, Sepa Rich Lab, Innocentis Judy, Maang Fiona Lynn, Ramos Mary Joy, Rasayaga Faith, Saluya Hazel. As we explore to throughout our course, doing business across borders is about much more than just in transactions and logistics. And its heart, international business, is fundamentally about understanding and navigating the rich tapestry of global cultures, perspectives, and worldviews. In today's presentation, we'll be exploring how cultural differences shape international business, examining the challenges and opportunities that arise when companies operate across cultural boundaries, and discussing strategies for success in our increasingly and interconnected global marketplace. We draw a concept we've discussed from organizational models and entry modes to the specific challenges of working overseas, and examine how culture influence every aspect of international business operation. So let's begin of our discussion into the fascinating world and global and cultural perspective. Next po, learning objectives. First, describe how the world economy is becoming more integrated than ever before. Second, define the strategies organization use to compete in the global marketplace. Third, explain how companies can staff overseas operations. And the last one is identity, ways in which cultural differences between countries influence management. Next na.
Good morning po. Um, Global economy. Global economy ay importante kasi connected ang lahat ng bansa pagdating sa business. Ibig sabihin, ang customer, competitors, employers at supplier mo pwedeng nasa ibang parte ng mundo. Halimbawa, kahit local ang business mo, pwedeng galing sa ibang bansa ang materials mo. O kaya naman may foreign customer kang bumibili online. Kaya dapat maintindihan natin ang global economy para makasabay sa changes at opportunities sa buong mundo. Slide po. International challenges and opportunities. Ang pag-unlad ng mga bansa ay pagbaba ng trade barriers ay nagbukas ng pinto para sa global economy. Dahil dito, mas konektado na ang mga bansa sa negosyo, trabaho at kalakalan. Challenges. Matinding kompetisyon sa ibang bansa. 2. Pagbabago sa exchange rate at trade policies. Number 3. Mga issues sa environment at labor standards. Example po opportunities is 1. Mas malaking market para sa mga produkto. 2. Access sa murang resources at labor. 3. Mas mabilis ang innovation at technology sharing. Yun lang po. Next po.
Let me highlight three important consequences of this integration. First, even as the world's economy output grow, the volume of exports grow even faster, and I mean much faster. This tells us the countries are becoming more independent, relying on each other not just for goods but for economy stability and growth. Second, 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 foreign direct investment or FDI now plays an ever increasing role in the global economy. Companies of all sizes, from small startups to multinational corporations are investing overseas, bring capital, technology, and expertise across borders. This creates opportunities for developing nation while allowing companies to expand into new markets. And third, important are penetrating more deeply into the world's largest economies. This means that even economy gain are opening their doors wider to foreign project and service, creating both opportunities for exporters and challenges for domestic industries. So these developments present us with both exciting opportunities and significant challenges that we must navigate carefully as we move forward in this globalized world. Pa-next po. So, foreign direct investment. Now, what exactly is FDI? Foreign direct investment represent an ownership takes in a company made by foreign investor, company, or government from another country. More specifically, it's describe a controlling ownership of an asset in the country by an entity based in another country. This is not just about moving money across borders, it's about establishing real, lasting business presence and control in foreign markets, whether through building new facilities, acquiring exciting existing companies, or forming joint ventures. FDI represent a long-term commitment to operating in another nation economy. This is this international investment bring both opportunities and challenges. Opportunities for economic growth, technology transfer, and job creation, but also challenges in terms of economy, sovereignty, competition, and regulatory oversight. Thank you. Next reporter po.
Top 10 global firms. Now let's look at how this concept play out in the real world by examining the top 10 global firms. These multinational corporations span across different countries and industries, demonstrating the truly global nature of modern business. From the United States, we have Walmart at number 1, ExxonMobil at number 6, and Apple at number 9. These companies represent retail, energy, and technology sectors, respectively. China is strongly represented with State Grid at number 2, China National Petroleum at number 3, and Sinopec Group at number 4. This shows China's dominance in energy and utilities sectors. The Netherlands contributes Royal Dutch Shell at number 5, another major player in the energy industry. From Germany, we have Volkswagen at number 7, representing the automotive industry. Japan brings us Toyota Motor at number 8, another automotive gain. And finally, from from Britain, BP, our British Petroleum, rounds out our top 10 at number 10. What's significant here is that all these global firms utilize various forms of outsourcing, outsourcing, and insourcing strategies to maintain their competitive position in the global market. They source materials, manufactured products, and provide service across multiple countries, creating complex global supply chains. Next is outsourcing and jobs. Today we'll be discussing outsourcing and its impact on jobs in the global economy. Let's start by understanding what outsourcing means. Outsourcing occurs when an organization contracts with an outside provider to produce one or more of its goods or services. This is a common business strategy used to reduce costs and improve efficiency. Within outsourcing, there are several important terms we need to understand. Outsourcing is a specific type of outsourcing whereby companies move jobs to providers in other countries, typically where wages are lower. This has been a controversial practice as it can result in job losses in the home country while creating employment opportunities abroad. On the other hand, insourcing refers to moving work from other countries back to the headquarters country. The work may be done by domestic provider or brought in-house. This trend has gained momentum in recent years as companies seek to have more control over their operation. Insourcing means producing in-house one or more of an organization's goods or services. This is essential the opposite of outsourcing, where companies keep operation internal rather than contracting external. Thank you. Next po.
Key aspect of global environment. The global environment comprises several interrelated factors that influence international business operation, economic growth, and societal development. Understanding this aspect helps organizations adapt effectively to global trends and challenges. Economic environment. The economic environment includes factors such as foreign investment, growth and developing nations, and rising wages in these regions. These dynamics shape the global market by influencing production costs, labor availability, and production costs, international trade flows. The economic interdependence among nations fosters globalization, creating both opportunities and challenges for business worldwide. Number two, technological environment. So, technology plays a vital role in shaping the global landscape. The rapid expansion of internet and wireless technology has transformed communication, commerce, and information exchange. Innovation in technology has made global connectivity easier, enabling businesses to operate efficiently across borders and improving access to information and digital markets. Number three, legal and regulatory environment. The legal framework includes free trade agreements and anti-corruption laws that govern international business practices. These regulations are crucial in promoting fair competition, protecting intellectual property, and ensuring ethical conduct. Adherence to such laws strengthens trust and stability in global markets. 4. Demographics.
So demographic trends have significant implication for the global economy. The aging population in developed nations leads to shift in labor markets and healthcare demands, while the growing population in developing countries offers expanding consumer markets and potential workforce. Understanding demographic changes helps in planning for future economic and social needs. Number 5, social issues. Social factors such as cultural differences and bribery concern influence global interactions. Cultural diversity as affect communication styles, consumer preferences, and business negotiation. Meanwhile, ethical challenges like corruption can hinder international cooperation and investment, emphasizing the need for integrity and transparency in global operations. Number 6, natural environment. The natural environment faces mounting pressures due to increasing demand for resources like oil, water, and food. There is also a growing global emphasis on sustainability, environmental protection, and climate change mitigations. Businesses and governments are urged to adapt eco-friendly practices to preserve biodiversity and ensure long resource availability. Next po. The geography of business. Next na po. So, Western Europe. Following the widespread devastation of World War II, a handful of European countries initiated a bold experiment to bring an unification and avoid future wars and economic progress. After the Treaty which formally established the European Union, the euro was adopted as a common currency among 19 member countries. The European Union allows most goods, services, capital, and human resources to flow freely across its national borders. Next. Next reporter na po.
China and India. Moving across the Pacific, there are two types of Asia's economic. China presents a remarkable story of economic transmission. China has world's largest population and a fast-growing middle class. The country has industrialized rapidly and surged ahead of Germany to become the world's largest exporter. This is an incredible achievement that has reshaped global trade patterns. Also, the world number two import after the United States. The country is a world largest consumer of basic raw materials such as steel and comet, demonstrating its massive industrial capacity. Additionally, China has become the world's largest cell phone market, showing the purchasing power of growing middle class. The India has become an important player in the global market. While the nation is still developing and its poverty of severe. There are significant positive trends occurring. India has a population of 1.25 billion people of the world's the second large population. Importantly, Many of them are entering the working and professional classes, creating an substantial and growing consumer market. Both China and India represent enormous opportunities and challenge for international businesses. Their large population, growing middle class, and increasing the integrity into the global economy make them essential markets that no international manager can afford to ignore. Next po. The Americas constitute a mix of industrialized countries just as Canada and the United States, and growing economics just as Argentina, Brazil, Chile, and Mexico. This diversity creates a dynamic economic environment with varying level of development and opportunities. So, the North America Free Trade Agreement or NAFTA, this is an economic pact that combined the United States, Canada, and Mexico into of one of the world's largest trading blocs. NAFTA has significantly facilitated trade between these three nations, removing many barriers and creating integrated supply chains across border. This agreement has been inter- instrumental in promoting economic cooperation and growth throughout North America. The South America companies rely on innovation and technology rather than simply cost advantages. To compete in the global marketplace, this is sophisticated approach that position those countries as more than just low-cost procedure. The countries of South America has a farm their own trading bloc called Mercosur. This organization promotes trade within the continent, create a more unified South America market and change the region's collective bargaining power and global trades. Next reporter po.
So let's now turn our attention to two important regions in the global economy, Africa and the Middle East. The Middle East is best known for its export of oil. Although oil exploration and drilling take place in many parts of the world, the oil-rich countries of the Middle East supply by far the most oil to the world's buyers. Most of this goes to buyers in Asia, with other major suppliers being Canada, Mexico, and Venezuela. The region's economy is heavily dependent on this natural resource, making it a critical player in global energy markets. Africa, on the other hand, presents a more complex picture. For far too long, Africa has been seen by managers only as a continent cursed by dire poverty, and it's true that the continent faces significant challenges. It is still plagued by an epidemic of AIDS, political instability, and ongoing wars. These factors have historically deterred investment and limited economic deployment. However, there's an emerging positive story here. Recent progress and growth in the middle class in some African countries have provided opportunities for businesses willing to learn the need of the population and make the effort to navigate a challenging environment. Forward thinking companies are beginning to recognize Africa's potential as a market and as a place for business operations. This shift in perspective is crucial for the continent's future deployment. Next po. Let's discuss global strategy and how companies position themselves in international markets. A crucial task for any international manager is to determine the best strategy for competing in a global marketplace. This isn't a one size fits all approach. Different situations call for different strategies. To help us understand this, let's look at organizational models and how they vary based on two key pressures. On the vertical axis, we have pressures for global integration. This represents the need for worldwide coordination and standardization. On the horizontal axis, we have pressures for local responsiveness. This represents the need to adapt to local markets and customs. Based on these two dimensions, we have four distinct organizational models. Number one, international, low global integration, low local responsiveness. This model uses existing capabilities to expand into foreign markets. It's often the starting point for companies going international, where they essentially export their domestic approach with minimal adaptation. Number two, multinational, low global integration, high local responsiveness. Here, several subsidiaries operate as standalone business units in multiple countries. Each unit has significant autonomy to respond to local market conditions. This is common in industries where local preferences vary significantly. Number three, global. High global integration, low local responsiveness. This model views the world as a single market. Operations are controlled centrally from the corporate office. Companies using this approach prioritize efficiency and standardization across all markets. Think of products that are essentially the same everywhere. And lastly, number four, transnational. High global integration, high local responsiveness. This is the most complex and sophisticated model. Specialized facilities permit local responsiveness, while complex coordination mechanisms provide global integration. It attempts to get the best of both worlds globally efficiency with local adaptation. Each of these models has its advantages and challenges, and the choice depends on your industry, products, and the specific market you're operating in. Thank you po. Next reporter na po.
Good day, everyone. The international model. This model means a company has branches or subsidiaries in the other countries, but the main or parent company keeps strong control over decisions, especially in the marketing and products. Second, the multinational model. In this model, each country where the company operates has more freedom to make its own decision. The branches adapt to the local culture and market condition. Third, the global model. This goal is to maintain unity, unity, the goal is to maintain uniformity and cost efficiency across all countries. The transnational model. This model combines the best parts of both global and multinational models. It centralizes some function like technology or production for cost savings, but allows local branches to make other decisions to their markets. It also promotes of skills and knowledge between countries. Model combines the best part of both global and multinational model. It centralizes some function, like technology or production for cost savings, but allows local branches to make other decisions to their markets. It also promotes of skills and knowledge between countries. Entry model. When company wants to enter a new country, it must choose how to do it called entry mode. There are five basic ways. First, exporting selling product directly to another country. Second, licensing allowing another company abroad to produce or sell your product. Third, franchising allowing another business to operate under your brand and system. Fourth, joint venture, partnering with a company in the host country to share ownership and control. Last, fully owned subsidiary, the company owns 100% of the operation and the foreign country. Next reporter po.
Good day everyone, I'm Faith Tersiagaw. Now we'll tackle of advantage and disadvantage of exporting and license financing, joint venture and whole owner subsidiaries. Advantage okay, explain ko yung advantage at disadvantage ng iba't ibang paraan ng pag-expand sa ibang bansa based sa image. Advantage, sales economies. Mas mura kasi hindi ka na gumagawa ng sa ibang bansa. Second is consisting with pure global strategy. Stock sa plano mong gawin ang world web ang brand mo. So, ang disadvantage naman nito is no local site. Hindi ka makakakuha ng murang lugar para gumawa. Second is high transportation cost. Mahal ang shipping. Third is traffic believers. May mga buhis na babayaran sa pagpasok ng product sa ibang bansa. Sa licenses, ang advantage niya is lower development cost. Hindi mo na kailangan mag-invest sa pag-develop sa ibang bansa. Second is lower political risk. Hindi ka masyadong apektado kung magulo ang politika doon. Ang disadvantage naman nito is low of control over the technology. Baka gayahin ng license yung technology mo. Dito naman tayo sa franchising is ang advantage naman dito is lower development cost. Hindi mo kailangan mag-invest ng development sa ibang bansa. Second is lower political, hindi masyadong naapektuhan ng gulo ng political doon. Ang advantage naman is pareho lang ng loss and control over the quality. Baka hindi sundin ng franchise yung standards mo. Joint venture naman, ang advantage dito is local knowledge. May alam ang partner mo sa lugar. Second is share cost and risk. Hati kayo sa gastos at risk. And third is maybe only options na baka ito lang ang paraan para makapasok sa isang bansa. Ang disadvantage naman nito is loss of control over the technology. Baka gayahin ng partner mo ang technology mo. Second is conflict between partners. Hindi mag-aaway kayo, pwedeng mag-away kayo ng partners mo. Lower owner subsidiary. Ang advantage naman dito is maintain a control over the technology. Kontrolado mo ang technology mo. Second is maintain a control over operations. Kontrolado mo ang lahat ng operations. Ang disadvantage naman dito is high cost, mahal magtayo ng sariling company sa ibang bansa. Second is high risk, malaki ang risk na malugi ka. In short, exporting ay madali pero mahal ang shipping at buhis. Ang licenses naman at franchises mura pero baka hindi mo makontrol ang quality o technology nito. Ang ventures naman maganda kung may partner ka pero baka mag-away kayo. Whole owner subsidy is ito naman yung kontrolado mo lahat pero mahal at risky. Next slides po. Now we'll tackle about licenses. Ito ay parang pagbili ng karapatan ng isang company ng iba't bansa. Ang bumili ng risk para gumawa ng produkto ng isang company ay may sarili nilang bansa. May bayad ito madalas sa royalty payment. Based sa madaming nagbebenta ng advantage nito, hindi kailangan sagutin ng company yung gastusin at risk ang pag-open ng market sa ibang bansa. Franchising naman, medyo pareho lang na siya ng license pero ang franchising mas ginagamit ito ng mga service companies. Samantala, ang license mas para sa manufacturing companies. And next, joint ventures naman. Ito ay nakikinabang sa isang company dahil kaalaman ng local partner, competitive condition of cultures, language, political system at business system ng bansa. Second is sharing the development cost at risk na kasama ang local partners. The last is only needed subsidiaries. Ito ay pagtayo ng isang independent company na pag-aari ng parent collaboration. Ito ay pinakamahal na paraan para mag-serve sa overseas market. In short, ang license, in short word, licenses is bumili ka ng rights para sa produce. Ang franchising naman para sa license pero sa serve. Third is joint venture naman para sa partner ka sa local para i-share ang gastos at risk. Wholly owner ng subsidiaries, ikaw mismo ang nagtayo ng company sa ibang bansa. That's all. Next reporter po.
So we come now to working overseas. When establishing operations overseas, headquarters executive can choose to send expatriates, host country nationals, and third country national. First, expatriates are parent company nationals who are sent to work at a foreign subsidiary. These are employees from the home country of the company who are assigned to work abroad. For example, an American manager sent to oversee operation in Japan would be an expatriate. Expatriates bring knowledge of the parent company's culture, system, and practices, but they need time to learn about the local market and culture. Next is the host, host country nationals. Are natives of the country where an overseas subsidiary is located. There are local employees who understand the market, culture, language, and business environment intimately. They don't require relocation expenses or cultural adaptation time. However, they may need training in the parent company's systems and practices. The last, third country nationals are natives of a country other than the home country or the host country of an overseas subsidiary. For instance, a Brazilian manager sent to oversee a Japanese subsidiary of a German company would be a third country national. These individuals can bring fresh perspectives and diverse international experience. Each staffing approach has advantage and disadvantage, and successful international companies typically use a mix of all three. Understanding cultural issues. In the area of the global village, it is easy to forget how deep and enduring cultural differences can be. We might we might see similar products worldwide, watch the same movies, or use the same technology, and assume that cultures are converging, but this is misleading. Each country is unique for reasons rooted in history, culture, language, geography, social conditions, race, and religion. These differences run deep and shape every aspect of how business is conducted. Next slide po. Ethnocentrism. Paniniwala na ang sariling kultura o grupo ay mas nakahihigit kaysa sa iba, kaya hinuhusgahan ang ibang kultura batay sa sariling pamantayan. Culture shock is the feeling of confusion or discomfort when someone experiences a new culture that is very different from their own. The last is expatriate, is an employee from a foreign country who is transferred to work at the headquarters or main office of a company in another country. That would be all po. Thank you.
That's all po, sir. Thank you so much po.